and welcome to Hong Kong Business Owners. I'm Carmen, founder of this podcast that shares inspiring stories from entrepreneurs based in Hong Kong. Whether you created your own business, thinking about doing so, or simply curious to discover business creation stories, you'll get to listen to unique business owners' journeys, to learn what it takes to start a company, what the keys to success are, how to apprehend failures and challenges, and what to keep in mind when developing your own business. As an entrepreneur, one of your main focus is to sell your products or services. That's where marketing comes into play, especially digital marketing and social media. Do you know how much time we spend every day on social media? More than 2 hours. That's an opportunity to interact with your audience, reach new customers, and get more visibility. To find out more about how to leverage social media to grow your business, check out oak.genhk.com, the agency that helps business owners find their place on social media. Now let's move on to the episode. I hope it'll inspire you and guide you in your current or future projects. And don't forget to give me 5 stars to show me your support. Welcome everyone on this new episode of Hong Kong Business Owners. Today I'm with Carla Martinesi. She's the founder of CHOMP, an award-winning food-saving app founded in 2021 that helps F&B businesses reduce their unsold food surplus by listing them on the app at a discount. Hi Carla, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very happy to have you on the podcast.
Likewise, I'm so honored to be here.
Thank you. Let's go straight in. So you were already in the F&B industry, as you told me. You did many different jobs in that industry, actually, before launching CHOMP. And you explored, you learned, you met people. You also understood the challenges of F&B, which are many. And so my first question is there a specific experience or an encounter that made you tackle the food waste problem in Hong Kong?
That's a great question. I started being in the F&B industry when I was about 16. And then over the years, I did a couple of random jobs here and there, either bartending or working at coffee shops or banqueting, or even ice cream vendor at a music festival for like a month. And then I did a degree in hospitality because I loved the industry so much. And then I learned a lot about F&B cost control, F&B marketing, F&B strategy. So there was a lot of theory that was involved with the industry, which made it really exciting. When I got my first internship during my bachelor degree, I wanted to come back to Hong Kong. So I was born here, my mom is from here, and I wanted to come back. And so I landed my first ever luxury Michelin restaurant at Upper House at the time. So it was Cafe Grey. It's now changed, but that was a really exciting job for me because it meant working in F&B in a new country and working at a job that I had not been familiar with because I was very used to much more casual style. You know, I felt so cool, like serving celebrities because they were staying at the house and serving breakfast. And, you know, I felt so cool. And then it hit, afternoon tea set shift. And my manager was telling me that I had to start serving afternoon tea. And I didn't really understand what it was because we didn't have this in Switzerland. And I didn't know, I thought afternoon tea was tea served in the afternoon. I didn't understand it was like a meal. And they were like, oh yeah, that's just like a tray, like a tower. There's like pastries and sandwiches.
Very fancy.
Yeah. And I was like, what? Can't you serve it on a plate? I don't understand the tower. And I worked a little bit in the kitchen and my chef was showing me the trays of scones that he had prepared for the towers. And he's like, okay, each tower has 2 scones. They come in pairs, sandwiches too, etc. And then at the end, and the afternoon tea set shift is about an hour and a half. It's not very long because then it's dinner.
Yeah.
And so the food rotation is very, I guess you can consider it quite fast, but the pastries are quite slow because a lot of people don't want to eat so many sweet things and then they go for dinner. So actually it's kind of a dying set. And so there were so many scones that were left over. And all I was thinking was like that it's over. Like afternoon tea is over. And what's happening with all this? And I was like, is it served for breakfast? Because you could eat it for breakfast. And they're like, oh no, it's not something we serve. And I was
So
like,
they just...
so what's happening? Do you want some? We can take it home. I said, there's like 60. I can't take them all home. And he was like, well, then we have to throw it.
Every day?
Every day. And sometimes it varied. Obviously, sometimes it was 30, sometimes it was 60. But then we started doing a lot of, because in Hong Kong, there's a lot of like influencer events, a lot of high-end events. And, Upper House was doing a lot of that. And so we saw a lot of the catering for that. And there was a lot left over. And I was thinking, this is so different to what we have in Switzerland. In Switzerland, the food waste is controlled. It's very much like it's taken to a T, it's annotated, they log the food that's left over, they make sure it doesn't happen again, they try to reduce, or they give the food to as many staff as possible, or they partner with charity. There's so many ways. And then...
Or you just maybe recalculate the number of scones you have to make every day.
Also, that would be a very good solution. But that sat with me for a very long time. It also happened at like dinner, for example, if like a sauce was served in front of you as a guest, but then a girl said, oh no, I don't want the sauce touching my steak. But actually we already poured the sauce. And she's like, I want it again.
Wow.
So the food gets sent back. And obviously because it's such a high-end restaurant, it gets sent back and done again. But there was nothing wrong with that. It was untouched. I put the plate down. The sauce was served. She didn't touch it. She said, take it back. And it gets thrown away. And I was thinking, this is crazy. The amount I could eat like a king if I took this all home. And so I finished my internship. I went back to Switzerland and it kind of sat in the back of my head many, many years later until 2020 when COVID hit. I had quit my F&B marketing job. I was doing freelance marketing with a lot of different agencies, but it was just not like, it was totally fine. I liked it. I was being paid. It just, my heart wasn't there. Like I missed F&B, but it was not the time to go back to F&B. And a lot of businesses were closing. My friends who were working in F&B had either lost their jobs or got a pay cut. I said, okay, I need to do something. Like I want this industry to come back so that I can go back to it. And so I thought about the waste again. And I thought maybe there's a way that they can profit off of things that would otherwise be going to waste. And that's how CHOMP came to be in 2021.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Bit of a long story.
Yeah, but launching a F&B related business in the middle of COVID was very bold.
That's one word. There's, many others.
Can you, like in one or two sentences, just to make sure people know exactly what CHOMP is?
So CHOMP essentially at its core is a marketplace app. It's a two-way marketplace app. So essentially the F&B businesses that we work with, anything from bakeries to restaurants to even bars. We've recently expanded to flower shops as well. Obviously, as flowers start to wilt, they can list on the app whatever may be unsold or too much stock or close to expiring products. They can put it on the app and everything is at least 50% off discounted. So people can go on the app, they can download from Google Play or the App Store, and they pay whatever they see on the app. So they pay through credit card, and as a fully sustainable startup, you have to go there and pick it up because we don't contribute to any carbon emissions, so there's no delivery. But with every order that you make on the app, you're saving about 1 kilo of waste from going to Hong Kong's landfills, which we know are completely filled.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Cool. And how do you keep control on the quality of the food? Do the restaurants or the F&B businesses that you partner with, do they have to follow a list of criteria or conditions or something like that?
Yeah, we do a lot of due diligence before. So we have contracts. We have 2 types of contracts to protect not only us, but our customers. We also do vigorous testing. So we do mystery shoppers testing to make sure that the food is safe. We also do trainings. So we do kitchen tours. We check their perimeters. We check their food and hygiene license to make sure that it's up to date. We don't work with any sort of, quote, Instagram kitchens, the ones that hobby bakers, things like that. Yeah. They're not licensed and legally deemed unsafe. And so obviously we can't work with them, unfortunately. But there are many things that we do on the behind the scenes before a store gets onboarded on the app. So it takes about, from the day that they sign the contract up until they get onboarded on the app, can be anything between 2 weeks to 6 months. Just through like kitchen tours, visiting, checking. We do a lot of training on the app. We make sure that we explain to them what is considered good and what is considered bad. Legally in Hong Kong, and this is from the food and hygiene department, you can consume something that's after the best before date within 3 months. Now, if they would like to put something on the app, they have to write the date that it's best before and it's after. So they have to explain with transparency. Now, this is where our mystery shoppers come in. We come in and we try different things every week just to make sure that it's up to date and that they're not tricking any customers. So far, touch wood, we haven't had any food poisoning or any of that. But we definitely make sure, especially things like meat and cheese.
Yeah.
We used to have a sushi shop, but we didn't even launch it because we were really unsure that it was going to... We weren't enough staff to make sure that it was controlled. So we were like, maybe not yet. So we ended up not pursuing it. But yeah, it's definitely something that we take super seriously because if you get sick, it's our responsibility. It's the shop's responsibility. And we don't want that to happen for sure.
And you work with those F&B businesses and actually you started CHOMP to kind of help them during the COVID crisis. So from an economic perspective. So is that the argument to convince them to be on board? Or I'm also interested in knowing, do you talk about sustainability with them and are they aware of that? What's their level of knowledge of sustainability?
It's really hard in Hong Kong because sustainability is not a big topic and not a popular one. With the smaller businesses, especially the local ones, it's really difficult to even begin the conversation about sustainability. It's like talking to a brick wall. Really? It's really hard to explain. They don't understand why it's their problem. And I get it. You know, if I was a small business owner, I'd be like, why is this related to me? I don't get it. And so it becomes quite hard. But when you explain, quite frankly, the equation and you say, okay, the ingredients you made for this dish was chicken, rice, egg. Okay, we can say soy sauce, oil, whatever. Everything was imported. Hong Kong does not make any food in Hong Kong. Yes, there's farms, but it's not enough to produce for the whole population. So everything's imported, which means there's costs attributed to transportation and all that. Then you have the labor cost, the cooking cost, the rent cost, the aircon, light, energy costs. And then you have the $45 meal. So if you think about all that cost that was put into the $45 meal and it gets thrown away, you as a business owner, you would want to do everything you can to save as much money as possible if that meal gets wasted, because it's not just the $45. For the bigger places, and I'll say places like the Baker and the Bottleman in Wan Chai, when I say sustainability, they are on it. Like, they are owned by Organic, so they're very sustainable. They make it part of their ethos. So when I say sustainability, they're on board. Like, they were probably the easiest people to convince. And the bigger groups as well, it's much, much easier to explain that it's going to help their ESG reporting. It's going to help their CSR, like all this stuff. It becomes much more of a convincing argument. So we know kind of by now, it's been about 2.5 years, we know roughly which strategy to pitch, depending on who we're pitching to. But I am disappointed that I can't say, oh, it's sustainable and it's good for you guys, but it's also really good for the planet, and they sign immediately. It's disappointing that it's not like that. Here we are.
So I guess you need to adapt your speech according to the different types of businesses that you have in front of you. What's your strategy to grow? I guess, obviously, have more businesses on board and reach more end customers. But what's your strategy to grow now? And how do you see CHOMP evolving in the future?
It's a good question. So to grow, it's difficult with our model because like I mentioned before, we're a bit of a chicken and egg model. So we need more businesses to join us to grow. And we also need more customers. And then if we don't have more businesses, the customers get bored. If we don't have more customers, the restaurants say, why are we listing food that's not being sold, for example? So we need both to grow equally. And both of them require different energies and different attention, right? It's kind of like having like two plants at home, but one requires like, it's like a cactus and you don't need anything. And then another one needs water and sunlight. And so for customer growth, we focus a lot on campaigns. So we do online and offline campaigns. It seems to be the one that works the best for us. Online campaigns involve social media. We do a lot of marketing data analytics to make sure that the things that we're doing is working. We pushed a lot our SEO last year, which helped our growth a lot. And app improvements is a big, big one. Making sure that the UI and UX is perfect or close to perfect. It becomes, we can track how long people stay on the app. And every time we make an update, we can see that people are lasting longer. So we know that it's a better user experience for them. Now, obviously, if I had all the money in the world and all the time in the world, I would love to add many, many more features. But hopefully that will be the next steps for CHOMP. For restaurants, I think, honestly, just like having case studies and credibility and the awards have helped us a lot to show legitness, not a real word, but legitimacy, and show that we're actually here to stay and that we're doing something that has worked for many other businesses. That helps a lot. But the first 2 years, without any of those things, it was hard to convince one restaurant to join without showing that there were other that were already here. So a lot of it is like showing order reports, showing case studies, showing facts. So yeah, our strategy there is honestly old-fashioned door-to-door. That has always worked and will probably always work.
Yeah, I think so. But you mentioned, like, for the end customers, you mentioned marketing. So to support the growth of CHOMP, what's exactly you said it a bit, how do you use social media? How do you reach more people and convey your message, or just say, we have food discounts? What's your audience demographics or things like that?
Yeah, it's a loaded question.
Yeah.
but I think for our social media, so when we first started, we were promoting all the deals. We were doing discounts, deals. Oh, new store, they do 50% off on this. This is what you can find inside the box and all this stuff. But me personally, it seemed a bit like a broken record. It seemed a little bit like it was always like a discount. And it seemed really boring.
Yeah.
And, we had this like team meeting and I was like, I really want CHOMP to be like, not just a food app. I want it to be like a community. People who don't have access to the app can actually use our ethos and our mission within their own families, their community, their home. So we expanded our marketing content to be more like environmental tips. Like Tuesday Tips is where we feature recipes and habits of how to be a little bit greener. We've shifted our recipes to be a little bit more like Asian based because a lot of the recipes online are very much like, oh, if you have leftover bread, you can make crouton. And people in Hong Kong, it's not common to eat crouton with their salads. So we had to adapt, and we did a lot of recipe testing and filming and changing it. So it's like things that you can use with leftover rice. But that was one strategy. Another one was focusing on our emails. So because of our app, we obviously have signups, and realizing that we actually can go directly into their mailbox and actually promote things helped a lot. And so we ended up with a community of about like, I think it's something like 10,000 people.
Wow.
Who are not only based in Hong Kong, but are subscribed to us or follow us because they are interested in sustainability, or because maybe they don't have access to the app. A lot of them are not in Hong Kong, so they don't have access to the app, which means that they follow for other reasons.
Nice.
So we try to push that. So with that became our other pillar, which is education. So we work with a lot of schools to do our workshops. and food waste education. And 2 days ago, we held a pickling workshop, and we were with Soho House, and we were explaining that pickling is one of the oldest form of food preservation. And the amount of people who are surprised that that was even a fact was shocking. But it shows that the lack of food education in Hong Kong is seriously low. So that's a short answer. But to summarize, the app only works in Hong Kong. So the people who can sign up need to be in Hong Kong or need to have a Hong Kong number, so we can contact you in case anything happens. But our community has grown to be much more than that.
Cool.
Which is nice.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
It's actually what makes you different from another companies, that you have a community that follows you.
Yeah.
I think that's the real thing. That takes time and is more difficult to get, but essential, I'd say.
I think so. And they hopefully are loyal. If something, if we launch something, they're there. And we see that when we do events, people come up and they say, we saw this on Instagram, and like, we're here because we saw your story.
Yeah.
And it's nice that we can actually connect on like a much personal level versus like a cold ad that's just roaming on the internet. Yeah.
You also raise awareness about on sustainability. And the other day we had a interesting conversation where I asked you exactly about that, because in the first place, in Hong Kong, people might be interested in the food discounts, which makes sense. I mean, if you pay less to have food, makes sense. Yeah. It's attractive. But so, they see this instant benefit for them. But I was thinking it's not necessarily a bad thing if they are not sensitive to sustainability in the first place. And maybe it's just a way to like kind of adapt to a current situation. Like, okay, you're attracted to that. You'll have your food discounted, but in the background, over time, maybe you will be more sensitive about that cause. So little by little, it's like baby steps. You were talking about educating, and I think it's that. So turning like weaknesses, I would say, into strength or something like that.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I was saying to you the other day that I realized, especially in Hong Kong, and I did marketing in Hong Kong and for about a year, but it was very strong strategic marketing. And you can just see the effect when you push a massive message. No one wants to do it, especially with Hong Kongers are so like independent, and they're very, they're very independent. And so it's hard to push them to do something. And essentially we don't want them to be pushed, right? And we don't want to force sustainability on anyone, and because then you don't want to deal with it. Yeah. So I think for us, when we first launched, like even as close to our brand colors, we didn't want to do like green and blue, because people will see it and they're like, oh, it's just another like environmental app, or it's an environmental, okay, whatever. So we marketed specifically as like, number one, yes, there's food discounts. Red was the color of hunger. Pink was the color of calm. So it was very much like something that was just like quite neutral in the F&B scene. And then over the years, we slowly integrated a little bit of green and a little bit, but the green was a little bit off. It was like turquoise. So it's not so like forward. In the email receipt, you receive a message that says, thank you for saving the planet. So you don't know you've done something good until after you've purchased it. So it's not forced down your throat. It's very much like, by the way, like you also did something good. Like, thank you. And so that's something that we will probably always keep. It's something that's very subtle, but it's there. If you look for it, it's there, but it's something that's subtle on purpose. Yeah.
Where does the name CHOMP come from? I was curious.
It was pulled out of a hat, essentially. We were 4 friends sitting on a couch, and we were discussing CHOMP as an idea. We didn't know it was called CHOMP, but we were discussing the idea. And I was saying like, there's got to be something here. We can do it. We can do something. And we were discussing if it was going to be a book, like a log book. So restaurants would have a log, and you could go or maybe it was like a Post-it on a wall in the restaurant, so you could pick a meal and pay it forward. It would involve a lot of trust, and I don't think we're there yet as a society. And so I was like, okay, maybe it's like a website where you can like book. And then finally we did a marketing questionnaire to like 200 people. It came back as an app. Like, okay, 200 people have answered this question. We should probably do something now.
Yeah.
I think they're expecting it.
Yeah.
And so we're like, okay, before we start, we need a name. And so we each picked 3 names. I put in 3 names that sounded like an onomatopoeia, like, because I thought Uber was quite funny.
Yeah.
So I put in things that sounded like eating. And so I put in all these random things. And then the first thing that my friend pulled out was CHOMP. And we're like, okay, let's go with it.
Oh, nice.
And so it's the sound you make when you eat into like an apple or something. And it stuck. And it was quite cute with the branding. We're like, okay, we'll keep it. We can always rebrand.
It's a great story.
Yeah. So it started with a bottle of wine and a couch. A bunch of friends.
And what's your ambition with CHOMP? Because it's more than an app. You have strong values and you have a purpose. So what do you have in mind? It's also a lifestyle even, I would say. You have you're a business, but you're more than that. And facing the problem of sustainability in Hong Kong is a big thing. So what's your ambition? And is it also outside Hong Kong, even in Asia Pacific?
So I got told by an investor on last Tuesday, that no one has dominated the Asian market. I've been thinking about it ever since. It's been like a week so far. And I've been thinking about it. Yes, you're right. Like, no one has dominated the Asian market. And the municipal solid waste law is coming into effect in August, but it has already been in effect in other countries like Korea and Taiwan. And I was thinking, these are markets that have, similar food society, like food industries. They are very good with sustainability because they already get taxed on their garbage. They're already into recycling, but there's no solution for their food waste problem. Japan has the highest food waste per capita per person in Asia. And 50% of the world's food waste problem is only Asia.
Wow.
Versus Africa, Latin America, North America, Europe. It's super embarrassing.
Yeah. But there are also more people in Asia, probably.
And there's also more restaurants.
Yeah.
And more F&B scene. So yes, it's still proportional, but it's still like not a great number. So yeah, so I would love to expand across Asia and bring CHOMP to other places that could really benefit from it. And I think it would be a really great next move. But for now, especially in Hong Kong, there's still so much that needs to happen. We help with a couple of government campaigns to promote food waste. So trying to move legislation would be a great one. Education is something we're already pushing. We work with schools, we work with universities to create like curriculum, but also just food waste education. The next part would very much be growing CHOMP to be multiple pillars. So offering new services that are outside the app, especially for people who either can't use the app or like maybe you work in a corporate office and at the moment there's nothing for you like on the app because maybe you bring your own lunch, something that could offer to you as well. So yeah, it would be great to first grow CHOMP into much bigger things in Hong Kong and then hopefully expand our offerings. Yeah, that would be a huge next step. Hopefully.
Yeah. Okay. Let's jump to our last question.
Yes.
Already. Do you have any tips or any lessons that you learned along the way in your entrepreneur journey and that you would like to share with fellow entrepreneurs or even future ones?
There's so many. There are so many lessons that I wish I knew before I started CHOMP or things that I learned and quickly pivoted because I had learned and realized the mistake that I made. Things that I wish I did before, it was a lot of research. I felt like I did so much. We did the marketing research, the industry research. We spoke to 20 F&B stores and I thought that was enough. I interviewed 6 app teams across the world. It wasn't just Hong Kong. It was like in Turkey and the UK. And I felt like I did all the due diligence I needed. I spoke to a lawyer before I started. I spoke to my parents. I spoke to investors. And I feel like I did as much research as I could. Looking back, I could have done way more. I think there's so much more I could have thought out. Like there are many features on the app that exist today. Granted, it's because of feedback. It's because of experiences I had where I was like, I think that should be added. But actually, it would have saved so much time and money and costs if I had done some research on what other app features exist and then done it in the initial proposal. So that's something I wish I did more. And another thing is just to be quick, like to be fast and like to pivot as fast as possible. If something is wrong or you're hesitant to make a decision, I think the best advice I ever got was, if you're scared to make a decision, just make the decision. If you're wrong, you can immediately pivot and do something else because you know that that's the wrong answer. Or you're just very quick because you did it right. And it's just, I think it's the best advice. And it's helped us change so much within CHOMP. We've grown a lot because we were able to move quickly. And so I think that's the absolute best advice I ever had. There's many, many others. Like what I'm facing quite recently in the last 6 months is I'm trying to fundraise. And every investor I've spoken to has had a different opinion about my proposal. And this applies to clients and this applies to agencies you're trying to pitch. And everyone has a different opinion. And it's very frustrating because you feel like you did it right. And suddenly everyone's an expert on your business. You feel really, discouraged sometimes. And it got to a point where I changed my pitch deck so many times where I felt like I didn't recognize it. So my most recent pitch, I did it to an investor who looked at it and was like, oh, this is totally not right. Like, you need to change this. This should have said this. And I was like, oh my God, that said this 6 months ago. And I changed it because somebody told me I should have. And it keeps going in circles, right? And like, of course, we can argue that this last investor, we have to take it with a grain of salt and, decide if he's the right advice. But I think when you change it so much that you don't recognize it anymore, it's totally wrong. So I think take advice with a grain of salt. Everyone will have an opinion on your business or your services or your product. You know the absolute best because you started it and you've done it every day or for 8 hours, 10 hours a day. You know your business the best, whether it's your skills or your product or your personality. And if someone comes in and hears you for 5 minutes and says, you need to change this, this, and this, is he the right guy? Like, I don't know. I don't think so. It was a hard lesson the last 6 months, but it's something that made me realize it applies to many other things as well. That was also one of my favorite ones.
It speaks to me because I also have my business. And it's true that people love to give advice. They love to do that. Even if they're not qualified for that, even if they don't know anything about your business. But also, we're both quite young. So maybe that adds to it even more. Young women.
Oh, yeah. We don't know much.
Recently I posted something about that on LinkedIn asking people, what do you do when you receive a piece of advice? Here's what I do, because I was trapped in that also. When I started the podcast and my marketing agency. And then now I just, leave the advice here and then continue with my life. And sometimes if it was a good one, it comes back in your mind when it's time. And then you realize, oh, that was a good one. But it no longer takes space in my mind. You know?
That's such a good way of describing it. It no longer takes space. Everyone's a critic and everyone's got an opinion. And it happened as well, like when CHOMP grew very fast, especially last year, it shot up very fast. And there were a few people who were criticizing. And people who said no in 2021 when I pitched it to them, whether it was friends of friends or stakeholders or businesses where I said, hey, I think you should get on board. It's going to grow a lot. This is the time. And they were like, no. And then suddenly when all this good stuff happened to CHOMP, they were the first. Oh, I was wondering if we could partner. I was wondering if maybe we could do something together. I would love to work with you. And all I was thinking was, you were the first to criticize. And if I listened, like in 2021, and you would have stopped, I would have stopped. I remember I had lunch with one guy who said, and he was a big ex-CEO of a big 4 bank. And my weakness is in finance. So that was one of the first things I asked for help. Because I knew if I don't sort this out, CHOMP will die. So I asked, I had a lunch with him and he's an old friend. And I said, listen, I really need help to start because I'm not asking for money. I just need help with the books. I don't know how to write it out. Can you give me advice? And he said, can you tell me the concept again? I said, yeah, sure. I explained the concept. And then he said, no, I don't think this is going to work. And I was actually, that's not why I'm here. Actually, was in your opinion, I was looking for advice on my finances. I'm not sure which template I'm supposed to be using, because there's so many. And he was like, oh, we can talk about that later. I think there's a bigger problem. Like, I think your concept is really not going to work. And I finished the lunch. I said, thank you so much. Thank you for trying to help. It's okay. Like, it's fine. I'll figure it out myself. And I ended up hiring an accountant to help me. And then 2 years later, I met up with him for lunch. And I had just gotten a couple of awards, which was really big moment because I didn't think CHOMP would last that long. And he was writing all over LinkedIn and he shared it. And he was saying, I'm so proud of this girl. And then so when we had lunch, I was thinking, this guy, like, I cannot sit here.
Proud.
Yeah.
Like, as he, I don't know what's bugging me here, but why are you proud? Like is it kind of condescending?
Yeah. It felt like that. It definitely felt like, it also felt a little fake, when you're like, but you're only proud because I made it, not because I was trying, and when I was trying, you wanted nothing to do with it. You can see some true things,
Yes. Yeah. I think the most important thing is to really stay focused. And I also have people telling me, oh, you're doing a podcast, like one more podcast. And I can see on the other side that many people want to partner with me and they like the podcast.
Yes.
And so yeah, it may be sometimes difficult to really focus your energy on the positive without being neglecting on the real problems, you know?
I don't know if you feel the same, but because I know I don't know so much, that I always take the advice. I'm like, oh yeah, maybe this guy's an ex-CEO. Like maybe he knows. Yeah. But actually, and it got to a point where I was so like demotivated because I was like, oh my God, these people are saying, like, I could have 100 good things and like 2 guys could say some bad things. And you're like, oh, my week is ruined. Like, I want to quit. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I had to go back to like writing a list of all the good things, like people who want to partner, restaurants who are on our app, like good things that happen. And I was like, okay, these 2 guys are nothing compared to the other 100 things.
Yeah. I hope this conversation will help other entrepreneurs who are like us, who sometimes it's difficult, to stay focused on the positive.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Carla. It was super nice to talk to you.
Thank you.
I don't know. I'm less tired than this morning.
Yeah, me too. It was one of those conversations that are very natural. It just flowed and made sense.
Gave me a little bit energy for the day. Cool. So to wrap up, if the listeners want to know more about CHOMP, or if they want to enjoy the discounts on food around Hong Kong, or for F&B professionals, where can they reach out to you, partner with you, whatever?
So you can find us on our website, which is chomphk.com, and also on our Instagram, which is very active, which is at Chomp Food Waste. And then personally on LinkedIn, on Carla Martinesi. And then we also have a really special gift where your listeners can have $25 off their first order if they type podcast. And actually, no, we can change it. We'll do HKBO. We'll do HKBO, and they get a discount on their first order if they download the app. You have to download first.
Thank you.
No worries.
Cool. I'll add everything in the description of the episode.
Perfect.
Thank you.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
I hope you're inspired by today's business story. And if you're thinking about running your own business, you might now be one step closer to doing so. If you own a business and you're looking to get more visibility and reach new customers, try the social media pack from Octogen, a monthly retainer to grow your business through social media marketing and optimization. Check out octogenhk.com, the agency that helps business owners find their place on social media. See you in 2 weeks to meet a new Hong Kong business owner, and don't forget to leave me 5 stars to support me and follow me on Instagram at hk.businessowners. Bye!